Now that a momentum was starting to build with the audience, Ron Jacobs decided that it was time to present a station promotion that would attempt to involve the listeners. So Jacobs went back to the drawing board and began to brainstorm with his disc jockeys. They came up with another promotion that would put them over the top with the radio audience. In fact, it would eventually have a huge impact on the Inland Empire.
All of the outdoor circus-like promotions came out of the Barnum and Bailey mind of Jacobs. Yeah, I was the program director, and I had, don't forget, I had to sit on those promotions so that they didn't get out of hand, because they sure could have at any minute. But Jacobs came up with the off-the-wall things. I remember the jock meeting that we were in, well, he suggested a walkathon, and I said, walkathon. Hey man, do it for charity. He said, yeah, crippled children. It was ping pong. And then that's when he said, okay, the first annual, we'll do it every year or something. First year, the first annual came in, he said, we'll go back and forth between San Bernardino and Riverside, because we had to have both cities to get the ratings. And we couldn't ignore Riverside, right? Okay, and who wanted to, you know? So he said, the first annual came in, San Bernardino, Riverside, walk back and forth. I said, man, that's dynamite, you know, that was too much fun, that name. That's the first promotion that literally put us over the top and just had monster ratings the very next time the book was out.
So Bill Watson and Ron Jacobs had a promotion that would capture the imaginations of the radio listeners in the Inland Empire. But K-Men would need a permit from the city of San Bernardino for the kickoff parade that would begin at Parasol Park and proceed down Highland Avenue towards E Street. The city officials of San Bernardino were somewhat skeptical about K-Men's plan. Disc jockey and sales manager Gary Price talks about Ron Jacobs' appearance before the city council to get the required permit.
Jerry and I took him to the city council to get a permit to do one of our promotions. He was going to explain it to the city council. He shows up in shorts and a t-shirt and a big red beard. He looked like a bum. And right away the city council has an attitude. Well, he stood up and did his presentation, and he owned them in about 10 minutes. He just awed them. He just knocked them dead. They couldn't wait to say yes fast enough. And he walked out.
So now that the radio station had the required permits from the city of San Bernardino and the okay from Riverside city officials, K-Man began promoting the upcoming walk back and forth on the air, constantly around the clock. The disc jockeys began challenging each other during their radio shifts. Each air personality claimed that they were going to outlast the others and be the last still standing. Each disc jockey invited their loyal listeners to come out and walk with them and donate money for the Crippled Children's Society of the Inland Empire. Finally, the day arrived. Friday, August 3rd, 1962. The K-Man San Bernardino Riverside Walk Back and Forth was kicked off with a parade originating in Parasol Park and marching westbound along Highland Avenue towards E Street. There were high school marching bands, drill teams, hot cars from some of the local car clubs, and at least 2,000 loyal listeners. The parade was covered live on the radio with exciting and colorful commentary, and each of the K-Men continued to brag about how they were going to be the last jock still walking. Those listening to the radio at home were invited to visit the walker's route and support their favorite K-Man disc jockey. The K-Man disc jockeys were walking for those who couldn't, the crippled children of the Inland Empire. Some of the radio executives back at the station were doubtful that any of the K-Men would make it to Riverside, which was a distance of over 20 miles. Disc jockey Don Tyler gave up almost immediately. He was actually needed back at the radio studio anyway to record promos for on-air playback. These promos would help keep the listening audience excited and glued to their radios following the progress of the other disc jockeys. Program director Bill Watson called it quits too, so that he could focus on coordinating the constant live coverage of the unfolding radio promotion. The first of the K-Men to reach Riverside was the Jolly Green Giant, Dean Weber. He then sat down and quit too. But Huckleberry Chuck Clements had his own strategy.
I was strong, and I used to jog between 2 and 5 miles a day, and I had all the endurance in the world. I was young and strong. I knew that nobody was going to beat me, but I knew there was one secret, And the one secret that would knock everybody out would be blisters on the feet. So I had these sandals with a real smooth bottom that wouldn't grab my socks, and that's how I made it. I started out real slow, and I was very careful about blisters, and that's what knocked everybody out. I'm sure William F. Williams was as strong as I was. He could have walked forever.
Eventually, the other K-men began dropping out too because of blisters and sheer exhaustion, all except Huckleberry Chuck Clements and former Marine William F. Williams.
We walked from Paris Hill Park through this winding route, you know, down to East Street and then down to Fifth, but I mean out Foothill to some, we used to call it the Gaza Strip, where you turn left going out of Colton or some damn thing, and you're just walking out through this desert and this wash and shit till you get to Riverside. It's the next green thing you see, which was about 12 hours later.
Prior to the start of the promotion, most of the K-men thought privately that they would be lucky to just survive the walk one way, from Paris Hill Park to Riverside. But that's not how it unfolded.
I mean, you know, if we'd had any idea, none of us would have done it. You know, we thought like, well, you know, we'll walk over to Riverside, there'll be a big party there at the mall, and everything will be cool. And by the time we got to Riverside, you know, we all had heat stroke, and we were all delirious and shit, and it's like, yeah, we're going to turn around and go back.
One of them said, ah, heck, it was such a nice day, I think I'll just walk back to San Bernardino. And they did. And we were going, oh, they're going to come back. Oh, great.
But when we got back to San Bernardino, we turned around again. And we're going back to Riverside.
Williams and Clements kept on walking and walking. And it was a long time. It was a couple of days or so. And eventually, these two guys were just about ready to collapse. Everybody else was out of it. They would not give up. And if I, of course, knew these two gentlemen very well. And if you knew Chuck and William F., they were not the type to give up.
When Bill Watson and Ron Jacobs were working out the details of the walk back and forth, it was hoped that the promotion would generate a positive buzz about the radio station and raise a little money for a worthwhile charity, the Crippled Children's Society. No one, in their wildest imagination, ever dreamed that the promotion would have such a profound impact on the radio listeners of the Inland Empire.
We were like, someplace at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. This would have been, I think we started on Friday at noon, and this would have been like in the wee hours of Sunday morning or Monday morning, I don't know, but long damn time. The crowd estimates where there was this one intersection out in the middle of no place, forgot where it was now, but somebody said, it was when it was reported in the paper, said there was like something like 7,500 people out there walking with us. And I mean, highway patrol and all that shit. And Chuck was hallucinating, and my feet like looked like hamburger. So the doctors came in and called it off. Chuck was in the lead.
I got the word from somebody in the mobile unit that Williams had sat down and could not go any further. So I went racing back down there, and he was indeed history. He had the bottom of his feet, he had to go to the hospital, really. And he wasn't making a lot of sense, as I remember when I talked to him. So he folded, and that was that. So now I got a winner, right? So I go back up to the Huckleberry scene, and he's plodding along, and I say, okay, hey Chuck. He walks alongside the car, and I explained to him what had happened. I said, we got a winner. So let's wrap it up at a good location. He said, why wrap it up? I said, because you've won. He said, I can still go. I said, why would you? How long can you go? He says, I don't know. I said, can you go all night into the next day? Yeah, easy, piece of cake. I'm shaking my head in disbelief. I says, so Chuck and I worked it out in our heads. I'll go back to the station and have a lot of fun with this on the radio if you really want to do this.
Well, now I'm imbued with all the notoriety, and I'm also a little bit crazy because I haven't slept for 2 days. So I was sort of goofy. And I wanted to keep it going because it was exciting with the thousands of people there. It was fun. It was a kick.
So Huckleberry agreed to continue walking. Bill Watson returned to the radio station and with the other K-men chronicled Huckleberry's every step in dramatic fashion. Inland Empire radio listeners were truly captivated by the on-air descriptions of Huckleberry's selfless trek. Huck continued walking into the next afternoon and then called it quits.
All I can say, it was a dynamite, dramatic moment when Chuck stopped walking after defeating everybody soundly and raising all that money for the March of Dimes and the crippled children. It was a blast. Whew.
As a postscript to the walk back and forth, Huckleberry went home to bed and slept a continuous 24 hours. William F. Williams went to the hospital, but wasn't allowed to stay too long.
All my fans came over and got in bed with me in the hospital, and they threw me out of the hospital. I'm one of the few guys that have ever been thrown out of a hospital that I know of. But